Supervisor Collins. Terrence Duval notified. Suzanne Flom notified. I have Dan Haas. Supervisor Hotling. Thank you. Kara Humphries. Claudia Kenny. Supervisor not notified. Wendy Matson said she'll be a little late, but she will come. I have Bill Mancini, Don, Matthew Mercier, he also notified. David, I have you. Michael O'Hara, I have Patrice, Jennifer Phillips, Steve Powers.
Yep.
Here.
Have them both here, Jennifer and Steve.
Yes.
Jolene Reese, Jody Rail, Bruce Shanker, Matt Stitchcom. Okay, Tara Donadio.
And
I see Supervisor Adams is here.
and and Bruce Shanker just joined, and then someone else joined too.
Very
Another
good.
supervisor. I'm not sure who. It's just a town supervisor. That could be
Oh, that's,
Tistria.
yes, it is.
All right. Well, let's jump in. Thank you all for joining. I know we moved the meeting. Thank you for being flexible. We're moving it again next month for a week later than normal. And so the calendar invite will go out soon. So it's on your calendars. Hopefully people can join. We're just going to jump in. Minutes. Does anyone have any comments? If not, we'll take a motion to approve them and a second. Any comments, first of all? Any changes? Great.
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
And Bill, thank you. All in favor? If anyone objects, just speak up or raise your hand, just so we know. I should probably skip the all in favor point because it's a little hard to decipher, but just ask for objections or abstentions. So let's move along. EV infrastructure, there's not a lot to report, but we have had meetings and attempted to have meetings with some of the town officials in the Chatham-Ghent area, Kinderhook, Livingston, and Greenport. Those are the kind of priority areas that we're focused on. Chatham-Ghent, we had a meeting earlier this summer with the supervisors in Chatham and Ghent, and also the mayor of Chatham and supervisors. We identified areas that within the map that Don had made, and Supervisor Simmons is following up with Price Chopper, trying to climb the corporate structure there to find the right person to talk to have a conversation. So that's happening. He's working on that, and we're also curious about the 295 Taconic interchange and businesses up there. So we're looking into that. In Kinderhook, thanks to Bill's help, we were in touch with Supervisor Ooms and for really thinking about the Hannaford Plaza area as the focal point and businesses there. I had a meeting scheduled a call last week and the power went out and the meeting got canceled. So I have to reschedule that. No luck in Livingston or Greenport, no response there from the supervisors. So we intend to reach out directly to Alltown Fresh, which is the location in Bell's Pond that we think has potential, and talk to that company and see if there's interest there. And then Greenport, no luck there. So we haven't really put much energy and no response. So that's the update on kind of like our outreach effort on the DC fast chargers. Happy to take questions or comments on that. And then if there's anyone that can give an update, maybe it's Don, because I don't think Ron is on what's happening at the county level with discussions around EV charging. This kind of will blend into our next topic, the fleet inventory discussion, and even into the next couple topics with the budget and spending. So first of all, any comments or questions on the DC fast charger outreach efforts? I'm sorry we don't have more to report, but it's slow. So we'll continue that effort. And Steve, do you have anything, Orchestria in New Lebanon? I know that you're working on a kind of parallel path up there.
I'll let Steve take that one.
No, basically, I think I mentioned at the last meeting that our review indicated that wasn't productive to pursue a level 3 charger at this point.
Right. I'm sorry, I forgot that. Thank
No
you. Okay. Well, Don, why don't we talk about maybe you can.
Just 1 second, David.
Yes,
I think
please.
that one of the outcomes of the New Lebanon meeting was, though, that Love's would be an ideal location.
Correct.
And I would,
Yes,
and I
we
would
support
really
that.
like to explore that. I'd like some help to explore that.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Adams, for that reminder. And do we have any?
And I'm sorry. The other thing is, I think the county, Don, isn't the county thinking about doing not the level 3, but the level 2 chargers at DSS for some of its own vehicles?
Yes. Yeah, we have 4 different locations, I think, picked out that we're going to look into. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good thing. 4 locations.
Yeah. Can I just ask a quick question before we pivot to Don on that? Because I would like Don to give us an update there and talk about the fleet efficiency policy and some of the funding and where it might go to help support that effort. Do we, and excuse me if I've forgotten, but do we have any relationships or have anyone, is anyone aware of any communication that has occurred with Loves about setting up a meeting to discuss bringing in the utility, bringing in some of the installers?
My memory is that our last conversation was that we were going to meet with Melanie Putnam first, because we know there's phase 3 power there, but we don't know how much phase 3 power is there. And somehow I thought that you and Don and I and maybe somebody else were going to do that.
Okay, that's great. We have not done that. I dropped the ball, so I apologize, but I will. We'll pick that ball up and make it a priority. So that is great. Thank you, Brenda.
Yep.
Okay, Don, why don't you take it away with the EV
Um,
locations and the fleet efficiency policy?
Yep. Well, real quickly, the fleet efficiency policy, we had it posted and we got some comments back, and I passed those along to Supervisor Guzzi from Livingston, who is the chairperson of the county fleet maintenance committee. He was pleased with, he had very few edits that he wanted to make to what we had supplied to him. We have passed it along to all the other members of the fleet maintenance committee to see if they have any comments or revisions they would like to make. And I assume they will eventually have an in-person meeting to discuss how to proceed with it, if they want to make any edits to it, how they get it, how it passes through which committees, because I think there are a couple of committees that might have some input on it, and then eventually go to the Board of Supervisors for a resolution and approval of the new policy. But he seemed very pleased with what we gave him. It's enough flexibility for him to feel comfortable and not too tied down to any particular path, but also gives him a lot more power than he has had in the past, because he has been concerned about not being able to get the most efficient, least expensive vehicles into the fleet. So I think that he was happy to have a little more muscle behind this policy that they will likely adopt soon. Yes, Brendan.
Don, do you think the path is through Public Works? I know it has to go through finance, but will it also go through public? Where do you think it starts?
Well, finance, DPW, or whoever, he wasn't sure himself.
Okay.
Honestly, the fleet maintenance committee does not meet very often, he
Right.
said. So he was going to talk with Chairman Morrell and a few of the other supervisors and figure out which committees it has to go through. But I think it might, because it affects like facilities, because we know that there's going to need some upgrades to the electrical, you know, the electrical infrastructure at different properties. So it may have to go through multiple committees, and multiple departments may have some input on what it says. So, yeah.
Any
Thank
other
you so much.
questions for Don? It's a good step, a really good step, and the process has been shepherded really well by Don through, and I'm sure it will continue to. I think there's been, it's been great because the county officials recognize the value of doing this and the need, especially the inventory, which will really kind of centralize information on where the low-hanging fruit is for which vehicles can be replaced most easily and most quickly. So good job, Don. Thank you for all that work.
Okay.
The next topic is the clean energy. Did someone have something?
I just coughed. Sorry.
Oh, no. The Clean Energy Communities Grant program. Don, you want to give us a quick update on what's happening with those grants?
Yeah, everything. Our grant application has been approved for the first $15,000 being applied to the DSS building solar panels. I don't remember if we talked about this last month or not, but we couldn't. There wasn't enough time to combine the next $15,000 grant that we are getting retroactively for our solar campaign in with this, because there was a deadline of September of this Saturday is when they expect to start construction on the DSS building, even though they weren't expecting to start the solar panel portion of it until well into next year. NYSERDA said, well, it's actually the start date of the entire project that determines when the start date is. And we had to have that all in before the start date. So that didn't give us enough time to combine the other $15,000 grant with this one. So we're going to look into something else to use that $15,000 grant. But it's been approved. The 15,000, you know, the clean heating cooling campaign it's all, you know, contracts have been signed and treasurer's been informed and everything. So we are ready to move, you know, ready to go with that. And we've actually submitted the first invoice. We get a initial payment of $3,750, and when the panels are complete and the project is done, we'll get the rest of the, you know, reimbursed for the rest of the $15,000.
That's great, Don. Question on the grant, the other grant, Heat Smart grant. Do we have? Is there a process right now for identifying how it might be used? Do we have candidate projects?
Yes, we after the discussion with that budget request that we went through last month, we met with a few of the supervisors and other county staff, and they identified really three projects that fit in with the CEC program. They were the EV infrastructure was, I think the top priority there, because we realize, you know, the county realizes we're going to own electric vehicles at some point, and we can't own electric vehicles unless we have somewhere to plug them in and charge them. So they want to evaluate 4 properties in the county. I'm going to go from memory. I think the DSS building, you know, because there are a lot of cars stored there. Health Department, which is 325 Columbia Street. The new building that they are purchasing on Front Street there, or what is it, 10 Warren Street, you know, down there on the corner of Front Street. And there was a 4th one, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. Oh, out in Commerce Park, there's the what is the
911 EMS.
yeah, where they park the fire coordinators' vehicles and stuff out there, and they're in Commerce Park. I'll also evaluate that one to see if there's, you know, so those are the 4 places they wanted to look at first. And
what's the timing for when this grant has to be used by, or a project has to be associated with?
Well, this $15,000 one, The initial due date is October 18th. I'm going to ask for another 2-month extension so we have enough time. So that'll put us into December 18th. But also knowing that, committees and the board of supervisors don't meet in December. So that's really more like a November deadline. So the county engineer, Ray Zurkowski, and I are going to sit down and go over a few. I gave him some information about, the other rebate opportunities for installing some of these EV chargers.
What's the cost for doing this now, Don?
Installing an EV.
The level 2s, right?
The level 2s. Well, that's the question. I mean, I've asked around. They're really not. I don't think they're that expensive because we can.
I think ours were $15,000 or $20,000 for a dual head.
Yeah. Which is not covered by. There's a limit to how much they will allow us to spend on each dual head charger. I think it is $8,000. You get $4,000 per port. So if we get a dual port one, they will allow us to spend $8,000 per port. So the county recognizes that we may have to put in some extra money beyond what we get for the grant, and they seem to be okay with that. I think we can also look at the NYSERDA Make Ready program, which will pay for a non-public charger. They will pay up to 50% of the expense of installing the infrastructure out to the charger, wherever that is. So there are some other ways to cover those added expenses. So we're not sure. We need to get some estimates from other contractors. That's where we are now. I gave Ray a list of NYSERDA approved contractors. Some of them work right in the county, and it's just a matter of setting up a meeting time with Ray to figure out what our next steps are. So
We have a couple.
That's part of it. Yeah.
This is really informative. Thanks. A couple questions. Tistria first, and then Tara.
It's Janelle.
Oh, is it Danelle? I'm sorry, I can't see.
No problem, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
First of all, great work, Don. Thank you so much. As far as the county installing EV chargers, to your point of the non-public chargers, does that really cheapen it? I mean, if we don't have, I shouldn't say cheapen it, that's an incorrect term, but make it more affordable by being able to put these things in without an app and a billing system and just have this available, with some kind of company fob, let's say. I've heard that if you do that route, they're only, $600, $1,000, but I could be misinformed. But
the Make Ready program would cover much more. If we install them in Hudson, the Make Ready program I think would cover 100% of the infrastructure from the panel in the building out to wherever we put the charger, or anything else that needs to be upgraded along the way. And then the charger would be covered by whatever the grant. So it would be possible to pay 100% for them if they are open to the public in Hudson. But if we're not, then it's only 50% for that.
Okay.
And
I see Tara has her name. I don't know if she has anything to add to that. She might be more familiar with some of this stuff.
I just wanted to mention exactly what Danelle was saying, which is basically that they're cheaper if you don't get them networked. So if you are just using it for county staff and you don't need to track it, it's probably better to go with one of those $600 chargers and get a bunch of them, because you won't have to pay the subscription fees going forward, the $600 per year or whatever it is. They do have like an in-between. You might have to talk to some of the contractors where it's not like the full amount where you can charge the public, but you can track employee usage. So it's like somewhere between the, what they call dumb chargers. They don't do anything but plug into a wall and give you level 2 charging, and the full range of being able to charge the public. So worth looking into.
Yeah, I know about Dave and I talked about this a little while ago. This really just need like a 240 volt outlet, and you can, you can get a charger that I bought for my car is like $350, so, but also knowing the county is probably going to want to track how much electricity they're using specifically for EVs. So I just, again, I have to talk to an engineer about what the options are, but I have a feeling they're going to want something more than just a 240 volt outlet. And it's something that may be able to track, how much electricity we're putting into these, whatever EVs we get eventually. So,
Yeah. Supervisor Adams.
The other thing I would want to consider is all of the locations that you described are heavily used by the public. And if we're going to remove parking spaces for the installation of these, I would want to think about the perception of having those have an exclusive use by employees. I think the public ought to be able to use them as well, particularly for removing parking spaces, which is, I think, what we would have to do. And it's certainly the DSS location and the 325 Columbia Street location. So just, the idea of exclusive use by employees in a public parking space might be off-putting to some.
Yeah, and you can imagine, a cycle working out where the county vehicles are charged at night and it's open during the day to the public. You shouldn't, if it's fully charged, you shouldn't need to charge it during the day in most cases.
right. Yeah, I think most of these cars, just thinking about how the county uses their vehicles, will probably just overnight charging.
Yeah, and they'll be full by the morning, so
That's
shouldn't be a need.
that's something for the supervisors to work
Yeah.
out.
Does the engineer and folks involved in this everyone is on the same page with this deadline, just so we can try to use this grant? We have to get it kind of figured out by December.
That's the other part of this. That's a priority that I got out of that meeting, but I don't think we're going to be ready to spend this $15,000 on EV chargers. So the other things that they are talking about are solar panels on the Newman Road Solid Waste Department building to offset some of that, the food scrap composter. All right, because I think they're looking at expanding that program. It's done really well, so they may get another. I don't know what the plans are, but they may get another digester or a bigger one or something. But that was another idea. And also they have the landscaping equipment purchase that also Ray has talked to Brian McDonald from facilities, and they have a list of equipment that they are ready to replace. So this one. My gut feeling is, just talking to everyone, it will probably go to the this landscaping equipment that they already have a list of. That'll be easy to get approved and passed, and we're ready to move on that. But we also, not to put off the EV charger, but again, we're a little bit later, we're going to talk to Christina about how well the heat smart campaign is going. And I think possibly within a matter of days, we will have another $60,000 to $80,000 grant available to us on top of this $15,000 grant. But so,
quick question on that before we go to Supervisor Adams. Can we kind of defer the clock starting on that larger grant if our campaign continues? Like, if we don't, can we wait till if the campaign stays open till the end of the year, or even into next year? Can we kind of not claim that so the clock doesn't start ticking and we're not in this position and we have a little more time to plan that out? We know it's coming. We know we're going to get it. We're pretty confident we can plan it out. May I have a question for Tara?
Sure. Yeah, I can answer that. Yeah, I mean, you certainly can. There's no reason you can't, but there's always the risk of not getting the money from one of the tiers if you're not submitting when you're eligible, because others will come in and submit their points.
Yep.
Right. We'll get to that later, and that's a really important point. Is maybe 15 by December, that could be used for something else, but we may be looking at a much larger grant that could be kind of transformational in getting EVs chargers installed in multiple places. Supervisor Adams?
The only thing I was going to say is that Public Works meets next week. meets on the 20th, and then it meets again on the 18th of October. I think most of the projects that Don describes fall within that framework, and it might be useful to let, to just give everybody a heads up that, we need to make these decisions. But I agree with Don, even if it were approved if it moved out of committee in September, it wouldn't get to the full board until October. So it looks very tight.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking to, more of a November, to get it approved in November, by the
By the
board,
board or by the committee?
by the board. Well, I think
Yeah,
through
because
committee, through the committees in October.
yeah,
And
okay.
then,
Through the
by the
committee in
board,
October and the board in November. That's what
beginning
I
of
think
November.
too.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Don. There was also a kind of related matter. We had kind of summarized the funding that we anticipated. We had either received or we anticipated receiving through these various efforts in a resolution, folks I'm sure recall, to request that the county consider allocating explicitly that funding in the budget to be used to plan out these projects. And a meeting occurred. Don or Supervisor Adams or anyone else that was at that meeting, do you want to give us a quick update on kind of what came of that?
Well, yeah, they agreed, they are going to spend this money obviously on clean energy projects. But since there is no specific project now, and we don't know which department that money would go through, it was said that typically what they do is when the money gets approved and we have a project in place, they will make a budget amendment within whichever department that project fits. So if it's in facilities, if it goes in, if we're going to install EV chargers on a building and it goes through the facilities, then they would amend the facilities budget for that amount, whatever the grant money is for, and whatever the cost will be for the project, both on the income side and the expenditure side. So they'll make budget adjustments throughout the year as the grants get approved. That's what they said they've done in the past, and so
I agree with Don's summary. I didn't think there was any interest in creating additional revenue and expense lines for that purpose.
Yeah. Well, I hope that the county is able to be able to move quickly enough to take advantage of all these, because of that'll be the challenge, given the tight.
I think that's all part of the process, Dave. When we get the grants, we pick a project, it moves through the committees, and those budget amendments are made as it goes through the committee and gets it all happens at the same time. I believe that's how it works. So.
And there is one mechanism, David, we used it last night. In the event there's something with a time deadline, we can have a special meeting, a special committee meeting before the full board meeting, so that it gets approved that night.
Oh, that's great. Good. Well, it's great that it's on everyone's radar and these meetings are happening. People are aware in various departments that this funding is available, will be available, and are starting to plan and think about projects. So let's move on to the next item. Christina, are you on the call? I think you are. I hope you are.
I am. Yep.
Great. Do you want to give us a quick update on HeatSmart?
Yeah, HeatSmart's going well. We have an event scheduled in Stuyvesant for October 14th with an energy advisor, Fiona Hayes. We have 17 installs completed since June 1st. I think there are more than that. I'm waiting on data, as I say to you every meeting, unfortunately. But I have 2 contractors that haven't given me data this month. So I have a feeling we're actually at 20, and it's just going to be when they give me that data, hopefully in the next few days, I'll be able to get it over to you and you'll be able to apply for the next grant at whatever point you choose to. But yeah, things are kind of just plugging along, going well.
Christina, what is the next threshold beyond 20 to unlock even more?
30.
30. So
Yeah.
it's an additional 30 or?
It's an additional 30, yeah.
Okay. So this came up in the EMC meeting the other day. There are folks in the various towns, right? We have our list of towns who are now talking about actually trying to mine the data from the permit records. These things are permitted, and the town, in theory, should have a record of what installations occurred. And we've already, I think, clarified that it doesn't matter who the installer is as long as we can verify that the installation occurred, right?
It's my understanding that you do need to know who this installer is, but maybe Tara can speak more to that.
I mean, they don't need to be part of our list.
Oh, no. It doesn't need to be part of
You need to
this
know
group
who
at all.
did it, right? But I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
So we would like to start actively working within this group and within the EMC and directly getting in touch with the offices in the towns to ask for this information. The question is, what exactly do we need? What type of information do we need?
So I emailed with Don about this yesterday, and I did mention that I've been encouraging the CSC leaders in the towns participating to do this for a few months, and I think most of them already are.
Great.
So I would recommend your first step actually be reach out to the CSC leaders, see if they already have that information, and we'll just share it with you. Because I think sometimes the CEOs get a little cranky if they're like, wait, now I have to give it to you. Now I have to give it to you.
Yeah, sure. We will do that. That's good.
But the pieces of information that you need are the installer, the company that did the installation, the date of completion, the type of system, and the address. And just if someone gets multiple, like a heat pump hot water heater, for instance, and a space heat pump at the same address, it only counts as one, even though it would count as two if they were neighbors. Just keep that in mind.
So no, just the address, no personal information is needed.
Nope, just the address.
Great. Okay. So of the folks that are on this call, we've got these are the towns: Ancrum, Canaan, Chatham, the town of Chatham, Claverick, Copiague, Germantown, Ghent, Kinderhook, both the town and the village, and Valatia.
Claremont.
And Claremont. Thank you, Jennifer.
And Gallatin, Hudson, Taconic. I sent Don a full list yesterday.
Yeah, I sent you a new email, Dave, with a few.
Oh, I missed that. I'm using the old one. Okay. So Clareton, Gallatin, Hudson, Taconic. Is that hopefully it's the whole list. Can New Lebanon, thank you. That may or may not be the actual complete list, but that's a big list. That's a lot of data to potentially mine. Can we get some volunteers to follow up with either the CSC in your community to make sure they haven't done this already, and if not, to contact the building inspector to see if we can get this information for the County Climate Smart campaign? Supervisor Adams has a comment or a question first.
A question, what is the start date of the campaign? So how far do I have to ask him to go back?
June 1st, right?
June 1st is when it became tiered. So actually, that's a question I would love Tara's clarification on. If we get data from before June 1st that could have counted for the first tier, it's just dead now, right? We can't use that later. Okay, so yeah, so anything.
You can, but it doesn't matter for the county because the county already reached the first tier. So for other communities, if you haven't reached tier 1 yet and you submitted your scoping document before June 1, you could still potentially, you can find those old installs. But for tier 2 and 3, it's after June 1st. So to your questions about gathering data for county usage, it would be June 1st.
June 1st.
Thanks, that helps. And I can reach out to our CEO without any problem.
Thank you.
I mean, I can do Claremont.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I'll take care of that for Hudson.
Great, Michael and Steve, your hands up. Go ahead.
Question just to clarify, do these installers have to be certified by NYSERDA to qualify for the the quota?
They don't have to be, no.
Right,
So
right.
they probably won't be getting the awesome utility credits and stuff that they could get through that if they use, but it can't be a self-install though. So no, has to be
Right.
an installer.
Okay.
It can be a self-install, and I also believe it has to be a cold rated. It has to be which not all of the non-NYSERDA installers always use. So just be sure to clarify on that. If you have a non-NYSERDA participating contractor, there's potential for them to be using equipment that's not rated for this program.
Great point, Christina. Yeah, it's cold climate heat pump is what they're called, CC heat pumps. So
Okay, great clarification. Dan?
Yeah, I can look into it for Copig.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Brenda?
Regarding the coal rating, is that something that the building inspector would know? Would that be in his or her report?
The type of system might answer the question if they don't know that.
But we're not asking for that data. We're asking for four
You
things.
do need to ask for the type of system. That's one of the 4 data points you do need. But
Type
the
of system, okay.
is pretty general. I think if it's a non-NYSERDA approved contractor, I would try to follow up with the client and see what equipment it was.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. That's definitely an extra step.
Yeah.
That might be.
I don't think there's that many non-NYSERDA approved contractor installs that you're going to come across, hopefully. We're trying really hard to get a lot of more of the installers to become NYSERDA participating. So hopefully that doesn't become a quagmire. But
well, if we collect this data and we know the installer, we can then subset the group that are, if there's any vague kind of we're not sure, they're not NYSERDA qualified, then we can always try to follow up somehow if we want to bolster the numbers. Bill?
Yes, I did contact the code enforcement officer in the village. I had 2 names since June 1st. We actually submitted for the first tier, because we started back in August of last year and we had about 5 or 6 then, which wouldn't have counted for the counties because it was all before year end or just around there. I can contact the coordinator over in the town to see, because I know she was trying to start something there, and I'll tell her to contact their, we'll get in touch with the code enforcement officer. She has a better relationship with him than I do. I'm not saying I have a bad one, but I've never met the guy. So.
That would be great, Bill. That would be appreciated. And I don't know if you know anyone who's active in Valatia.
Yes, I do. I can reach out to her as well. Actually,
Okay.
I do know the code enforcement officer there, so I might be able to get in touch with her directly. So
That's great. It's good to know
Yeah.
people. Thanks,
Yeah.
Bill.
Okay.
That covers Kinderhook, and Valatia. Jennifer?
I would, just to clarify on the type of system, that's basically just the make and model number.
that would be great, because then you would be able to see if if it is cold rated, you'd be able to look that up directly. A lot of times we just will get, air source heat pump mini split, this many heads. And that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
And I will also be in touch with the Germantown code enforcement officer and report that to you, Dave.
Okay, great. Perfect. Danil?
Yeah, I apologize, Christina. I had someone come into my office. Can you repeat the data points we're looking for all these reports?
Yeah, it's the installation company, the date of installation, address, and type of system.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll do Ghent as well. So we have thank you, everyone. I tracked, Bill is doing Kinderhook, Village, Town, and all through someone else, and then also Valatia. Brenda's got Canaan, Jennifer, Claremont. Steve, you didn't raise your hand, but do you think you could do New Lebanon?
New Lebanon, no problem.
Great, thank you. Michael Hudson, I'll do Ghent. Dan Haas, Copake, Christina, Germantown. That covers a lot of the county, not every single town. So if there's some missing, we can just follow up. Don and I can do that. Supervisor Adams. You're still muted.
Does Hillsdale have a campaign? Or Philmont?
Philmont does, Hillsdale does not.
Okay, because Philmont is, Hillsdale and Philmont and I share the same code officer. So
And that's
could
what I was
ask-
just going to bring up. So many towns have the same code enforcement
So I
officer.
could
They
ask
share
for
between 3 or
for both
4.
Philmont and Canaan.
That is great.
Okay.
Good catch. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Well, that's great. I mean, the only thing, Claverick perhaps, Copake, Gallatin. I can ask Matt Stinchcomb if he can do that. I know he lives down there. I don't know if he's on the call. I didn't hear his name. So that's a good start. And then what is the, just to kind of give us all some added momentum here. What is the at 30 more, a total of 50? What is the level 3 or tier 3 grant amount?
The level 3 grant amount is 60,000, but I also believe because each tier of this campaign is a lot more points than the other campaigns. It's 500 points for tier 1, 600 points for tier 2, and 700 points for tier 3. So at the point when you get that tier 3 700 point $60,000 grant, you will also very likely be at a 3,000 or 4,000 point grant within the system as well. So it'll trigger a little domino effect.
Yeah. So this is serious money. Think about all the EV charging and the cars. So this would be a great win for us. So thank you all for doing that. And let's, who are we reporting the information to? Do we want to report it directly to Christina? Does that make the most sense? Or do we
Sure.
want to report it to Don?
Sure, you can send it to me. I'll put my email in the chat for those that don't already have it.
That's great. Thank you, Christina.
Yep, just,
Don?
I'm just wondering have you seen like is this like been a steady march, or is it slow? Has the amount slowed down lately? Do
It's
you know?
it's been difficult to get the data monthly as all the
Yeah.
contractors agreed to do, but are not doing. And Tara did warn me that was going to happen when she ran these campaigns. So it's harder to see how steady it is when we're getting kind of like a few months of data dumping all at once. But I think it really actually started picking up this summer. I think, people started being interested, shopping around, this and that when we started last winter, and then this summer, it's been moving along well. I think the word is really out about the Inflation Reduction Act benefits of heat pumps right now as well. And I do think generally there's just a huge surge of interest in new heating systems as those first heat bills roll in the fall. So I imagine we'll have another big bump coming soon.
I asked because doing the math, since June 1st, we've got probably 20 now. And if you extrapolate that out, we'll have the next 30 will come somewhere in March of 2024. If it's like a steady stream.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I think overall in the county, let me just look at my spreadsheet. Overall in the county, we actually have 55 already installed since the beginning of this, but because so many were between when we reached tier 1 and when tier 2 started to exist.
Yeah.
So it really has been moving quite right along.
And also going back to the using up the grant funds, I looked on the NYSERDA site today, and it's still I don't think anybody has used the tier 2 or 3 grants for this campaign yet. So they're still fully funded as far as I know.
That's great.
Yeah, but they also are new. So I
Yeah.
feel like people will be a little like of the towns that I'm looking at on this spreadsheet as well. There's not that many that have applied for tier 1, but there's so many with, 4 for a small community that will probably all apply in a very quick succession of each other.
Okay. With some hands up, Supervisor Adams, then Steve Powers, and then Bill.
I just wanted to support what Christina was saying because I was at the fair for a couple of days and the heat pump vendors were swamped with people standing in their booths. So I think that we might get a bump from the fair as well.
Mm-hmm.
And our organization was at the fair as well, the Capital Region Clean Energy Hub, talking about the affordability options of this. And we got a lot of leads from that.
That's great. Steve.
One question I had, I don't think that, or a statement, that in terms of the county, we're limited by purchases from towns that have signed on, right?
That's
So
correct.
Absolutely not.
Brenda, you could reach out to Hillsdale person and get anybody there who's actually purchased, right?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
really good point, Steve, that you made. Yeah, it doesn't just be, if the town hasn't adopted a scoping document, that doesn't exclude the county from using that data, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Put me down for Stockport then, Dave. I'll contact
Okay.
our.
Great.
Yeah, my point on that was more just if there are people, if the CEOs are already reporting data to the CSC leaders in that are in the participating communities, was just like to go through that first. But yeah, absolutely, anyone in the county counts.
Great. Bill.
Yeah, this is something I've gotten feedback in the village from people who've had installations done by one of the NYSERDA installers, and I did contact the code enforcement officer to get information, and then people started asking questions about their permits being closed out, and they haven't been because there hasn't been an electrical inspection that's required by the code enforcement officer in the village. And so that it's kind of put a little negativity on the whole process at this point with some people. And this is a small village and everybody talks. So, Tara, you know that. And I was just wondering, I tried to find what Columbia County had as far as certified licensed electricians who do the inspections. I know there was a fellow here at one time who's retired, Dave Williams, because he did do my solar inspection when I put the solar panels on about 3 years ago. And I contacted an organization that's supposedly, they are, certified electrical inspections for New York State, but they said they only handle like northern around Rochester and up in the northern part of the state. And they had no information about anything down here as any kind of organization. And I was just wondering if any of the supervisors know if there's any certified electrical inspectors that are relied on by towns or villages. Because my
Well,
code
isn't it
enforcement officer doesn't seem to know.
Isn't it the installer's responsibility to carry on and have and
Right. Well, that was
schedule
the problem
inspection?
because they've contacted the installers about it. This fellow had it done back in October. He was one of the first ones on our plan, and he didn't get any inspection. And then of course the code enforcement officer told them, well, then if you don't have it inspected, there's problems if you ever want to sell the house, because if they look into whether it was done, and that whole thing was
I mean, you need to have the inspection to close out the permit. That's like any electrical work, and that always you rely on the electrician, the installer, the solar company, the heat pump company to carry that. That's like completing the job, is to actually get the inspection done. It's part of the deal. So these folks need to go back to the company.
No, they have. That's what I'm saying. They have called on numerous occasions to the company and have gotten, we're really backed up and we can't get anybody there, or we don't have anybody. But looking into it, I haven't heard of anybody who is actually in that position as as an inspection for those jobs. And I was hoping somebody might know.
Steve?
The guy that came out to inspect at our town hall in New Lebanon is actually based in Chatham. I can get you his contact details. So,
Okay.
I was, we had discussed this earlier, Bill. It's a little confusing because I guess they're random inspections from the NYSERDA side. Is that right, Tara and Christina?
Yeah, the quality assurance inspections are random.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what Bill's talking about. It's more just like the building permit inspection for the electrical, like the actual, village or town building inspection. So,
Yeah, but once that guy does it, does that qualify as it doesn't?
Yep.
Okay.
No, Bill, if you want to follow up with me after this about what company that is and what's going on, I would love to investigate on my end.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you, Christina. Supervisor Adams.
We did have an electrical inspector in Canaan, but he retired a year or two ago. The last time I was building in Hudson, they had a list of electrical inspectors that they might be willing to share with you. They also had a list of plumbers that would make inspections. But I agree with you. That's something that we probably ought to talk to BOCES about. They might be able to direct us to people that have been certified for that position. But check with Hudson and see if you can find anything with their code officer is pretty generous in terms of his inspectors.
Great. Okay, that was good stuff, everyone. Really good progress. I don't know if there's anything else on that before we move to the next topic, which is an update on the climate adaptation resilience plan. Any last thoughts on the Heat Smart campaign? Let's go gather the data and raise the money. Good work, everyone. Thank you for everyone's involvement. Audrey, I didn't see if you were on, Audrey.
I'm here. Can you hear
Great.
me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Well, I am actually happy that we're meeting right now and happy to update everybody that we have 2 workshops planned for the end of September. So we kind of split the county into a northern cohort and a southern cohort. And we are holding the vulnerability assessment workshops at the end of the month. So for the southern cohort, it's being held at Columbia Green Community College. And that's from 1 to 4:30 on Tuesday, September 26th. And the very next day, on Wednesday, September 27th, we're holding the northern cohort workshop at PS21. It's a performance venue up in Chatham. And that is also from 1 to 4:30. And I thought we put registration out, but I thought I would quickly just give a quick rundown of the numbers for registration so you all can know where we have some gaps. We are encouraging a minimum of 2 to a maximum of 6 people from each municipality to come, just to keep the size of the workshops manageable. And we are going to be starting off kind of in a whole group and talking about things kind of at the more county level. And then we'll be breaking out into breakout groups to do like participatory mapping for probably 2 to 3 municipalities per group to do some more like local vulnerability assessment tabletop mapping exercises. So let me just quickly pull up my numbers. I just looked them over. Here we go. So for the northern cohort, I have the town of Canaan has 1 person registered. We have no one for the town of New Lebanon. We have 5 from the town of Chatham. We have 2 folks from the town of Kinderhook, and one of them is, I'm guessing that the Kinderhook Memorial Library is in the town of Kinderhook. That one of those folks is from there. And then for the town of Ghent and the town of Austerlitz, you all share a Climate Smart Communities Task Force coordinator who is coming. And then Ghent otherwise doesn't have anybody else. The town of Austerlitz has 2 other folks coming. The village of Kinderhook, I have 1 registered, and the village of Valatia, I don't have anybody registered for. I'll stop there real quick because I see Steve Powers has raised his hand.
Yeah, I did register, Audrey.
Oh, okay.
Just 1, yeah.
All right. I'll make sure I check that over. Sorry about that. I might have just missed that. That's great. Thank you. So I am running through this and mentioning this because, like I said, I'm hoping maybe if folks hear that no one's registered or just one person's registered, they can go back and just maybe find someone who could come and participate with us. And we'll be reaching out with kind of updating the climate leaders the leadership teams with these numbers as well to have them try and help ensure we have at least that minimum of 2 folks. Town of Akron, I don't have anybody registered. I have 2 from the town of Gallatin. I'm now in the southern cohort. I have 3 folks from the town of Claverick. I don't have anybody from the village of Philma. I've got 4 folks from the town of Taconic, 1 from the town of Copake, 2 folks from the town of Hillsdale, 1 from the city of Hudson, and I don't currently have anybody from the town of Germantown. And that's the whole group. And Don is actually going to be coming for the county to both of the workshops. All right. So that's about my my update now. We're heavily focused on prepping and getting ready for these workshops. We're kind of wrapping up the vulnerability assessment piece of this work with this workshop, and then we'll be looking to hold a second set of workshops at the end of October to do some visioning and future scenario planning with an eye to start identifying strategies that we want to put in for recommendations and stuff. Oh, and by the way, the survey went very well. I just checked today. We have about 720 responses. I don't know for sure if all of those are fully completed responses yet, but we haven't, been able to filter that out. And actually, my colleague just picked up a set of paper surveys. The survey closed out on Wednesday, but I think it went very well. And we'll be presenting the results, some of the numbers from the survey at the vulnerability assessment workshop.
Great. Supervisor Adams.
I just realized that someone had dropped off a couple of paper surveys with our town clerk. May I scan those and send them to you?
Absolutely.
Okay, they didn't come in this week. They've been there aging for a while. Okay, so
Yeah,
I'll get
that'd be
those.
great.
And do you happen to know, or when will you know, if the survey is representative of the whole county? The survey results.
I should be able to know that relatively soon. We're spending, we'll probably be getting into like the analysis next week. So, I can make it a priority to quickly just get an idea if at least everyone who participated was one of the participating municipalities, or we did actually send it out to every municipality in the county, whether or not they are actually involved in the project right now.
Okay.
So I can
Just
we
curious.
can try to give
I
you a
don't think
heads
you have
up.
to
Yeah.
expedite it. Just curious.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank
And I
you very
can
much.
put my email in the chat as well for if you want that.
Thank you, Audrey. That's a
Thank
great
you.
update and a lot of progress. So make sure that we publicize those meetings to those, especially those towns that are underrepresented right now. See if we can help bolster those numbers. And thanks for all that good work.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Is there an update on the climate carnival? I'm not sure there is. It's on the agenda, but Don, you're muted.
Okay, we did send out a save the date notice. I don't know if I think Jolene is on the call here. I don't know if she has anything to add to that. I thought I saw her come on, maybe not. But yeah, we are making progress on the. Jolene and I sent out a save the date memo to everyone on our previous email list, and we've been steadily seeing some returns from other folks. That's yes, keep us on. We're excited and let us know what we have to do. So that's where we are. Very
And
short.
remind us of the date.
September 2024. It is 16th. I'm gonna look on my calendar.
Yeah.
14th.
Sorry, Jolene, your mic is not working. If we'll be on for a few more minutes, so if you have anything, you can put it in the chat. We'll make sure we read it if there's any other information. But thank you for the quick update there.
Yeah, September 14th it is, Dave.
September 14th, save the date. The planning is just beginning. So there'll be much more on that in the coming months.
Yeah, I think we want to reach out to, other folks. I think that was I'm going from memory, Jolene, so sorry. I think we want to reach out to some other folks who might not have been involved last year to try to get involved on the committee, maybe reach out to some of the local climate smart community folks and try to get them more involved in the whole process too. I think that was one of our goals this year too, Dave.
Do we have a committee that has come together, and we have the group from last time, but have we reaffirmed or kind of reconstituted a group that's actively working on it? We started meeting last year, I think once every other month, and then
Right.
we got closer and we were meeting every month. There was a lot of leadership from some key people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so far it's very small. It's just Jolene and I, and Supervisor Hoatling mentioned that she would be involved. We are other folks who are not technically on the committee, but we are talking to Mike Tucker from CEDC, who has been having some, helping us out with some of the the financial end and looking into some insurance options and whatnot. So
Great.
Far, kind of a small group, but we are looking for anybody else that wants to be involved.
Jolene wrote in the chat that we will be sending out an invite to all members to see who's interested. If you are interested or know of someone, please reach out to Dawn or Jolene and let them know, as we'll be having meetings on a regular basis to start the planning process. And being part of that last time, it was quite a great experience to pull that together and then be at the event, which I think most of us were at, and it was a great event. So that's great. That's coming back. Anything else on the Climate Carnival? Okay, moving along. I wanted to throw out there's a conceptual idea that's starting to develop out of our friends in Taconic. We don't have anyone on the task force. Hopefully starting in January we will, when we reconstitute, but from Taconic. But they're a very active part of the county in a lot of the ecological work going on with regard to restoration, pollinator habitat, reforestation, and they've been having a lot of great conversations. They call them Taconic Talks. I was at one on last Saturday, which brought in a speaker from PRISM, which is an organization that deals with invasive species management, and it was great. It was really informative, and it was chock full of information, useful information. There were probably, sorry, I have some noise here, tractor going by. There were probably like 60 people there. They've had a couple of these. They had the Doug Ptolemy's video. A lot of people came. I think it was 100 people that showed up to watch that on backyard restoration work. And at any rate, an idea has come out of that group. We just started talking about it, of a tree planting campaign that we would aim for next Earth Day, Arbor Day, next spring, when you would plant early spring, when you would naturally plant trees. We're talking about starting with something like 1,000 trees in the county. The basic concept that we're still working on is we'll pull together a coalition of organizations with individuals, and we hope that the Climate Smart Task Force and the EMC can be the two kind of bodies from the county that participate in that planning process. And we'll raise the money through private donations or grants to help fund this, so people can learn about tree planting and volunteer at one or more public locations where they can just come and plant for a day just for the sake of planting, or they can come and get trees to bring home and plant on their land. So more to follow on this, but just wanted to kind of throw it out there that it's a project that's starting to develop on the sidelines here, and it would be pretty exciting. We've focused a lot of our energy, as everyone knows, on the climate smart initiatives that deal with technology shifting, and we're making progress there. Never enough, never fast enough, but there's progress and there's focus there. But the other side of the adaptation and resilience and planning, but the other side of our battle to mitigate and adapt to climate change is what we do in stewarding the ecosystems and our farmscape and all the land around us. So this is really an exciting project. Is that Supervisor Collins with a hand up?
Yes, David. I was just trying to insert, if you could maybe give honorable mention during that tree planting campaign, that the Columbia County Soil and Water Conservation Board does do their tree sale annually. They usually have a pretty good selection of everything from lilac whips to, I think the last thing I bought there was tulip poplars. So keep them in mind too when you do a public service announcement or something like that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll involve, see if they can be involved directly in the project. That's great. And I love tulip poplars, one of my favorite trees. If you don't have one or you've never met one, you should go out and meet one because they're terrific, especially when they're flowering, hence the name. Okay, Dan, thank you so much. We're close to signing off. We just have a couple quick things that I want to get in here. One is, Don, you're making progress on the greenhouse gas inventory and benchmarking. It's on the agenda. So is there anything to share there? You're muted. Can't hear you, Don.
Just want to let everybody know I haven't forgotten about it. I was making some progress in August, but then the deadline for the grant application kind of came up, so that took a little focus away. But it's still going on, and I just wanted to let everybody know I haven't forgotten about it, and I am still working on it. That's all for that, Dave.
Thanks, Don. And the last point I would just want to make clearly is there's a process in our bylaws to the newly adopted climate smart bylaws that has the planning department directly reaching out to the towns and villages in the county, all the municipalities, to request nominees for serving on the task force moving forward, starting in January. And we'll start this process where we are populating the task force with an individual from each town. So if you would like to continue serving, then contact your supervisor or your mayor and let them know. And also let us know, let Don and I know, so we can make sure that that information gets passed along when that message goes out, probably the next few weeks, I'm guessing, from the planning department. And we'll have a nice robust group of new people and continual service from some of the great people that are here today. That's a little public service announcement at the end to make sure that we have good continuity and keep the work going and keep expanding it. But thank you all for joining. That's the whole show. I don't know if we have anything else. Anyone else have anything to add? All right, I think it's a wrap.
Okay.
So until a month from now, we have some marching orders. We have some work to do. So thank you all for your participation. Appreciate it and keep
Thank
up
you.
the good work. Bye.
All right. Bye all.